Deep in the jungles of central Laos, an intricate system of caves cuts through the mountains. On May 20th, a group of 8 men walked into the dark of one of these passages. These men were local miners hunting for gold. They navigated an unmapped, illegal network of man-made tunnels, searching for enough precious metal to pull their families out of poverty. The event that triggered the disaster was unseen from underground. Above the tree line, a sudden monsoon broke open. Heavy rainwater surged down the slopes, feeding directly into the exposed cracks and channels of the mountain. Inside, a trickle of water quickly became a rushing flood. As the tunnels began to rapidly fill, one of the men managed to sprint back toward the entrance, escaping just before the passage sealed shut. He ran to alert authorities, but 7 others were trapped in the dark behind him. The miners were effectively buried alive. The water had sealed them inside the same mountain they had spent weeks digging for profit. For the men inside, the first sign of danger was a harmless drip echoing off the walls. Within minutes, it escalated into the roar of a rushing torrent that gave no hint of the storm raging on the surface. The narrow crawl spaces began to transform. Muddy water swept across the floor, rising over their ankles and then their knees, drowning the only route back to the surface. The rising floodwaters forced the miners into 2 separate groups. 5 men managed to scramble onto a narrow rock ledge in the 5th chamber, while 2 others were pushed even deeper into the unmapped abyss. Because these tunnels were dug entirely by hand, following erratic veins of rock, no official blueprints existed. It was a jagged maze known only to the miners who had carved it. Survival now depended on a rescue operation on the surface that had no way of knowing their exact location or if any of them were still breathing. Outside, a massive international operation was mobilizing. Elite cave divers from Thailand, Malaysia, Japan, and Australia flew into Laos, many of whom were veterans of the 2018 Thai cave rescue. In the Thai rescue, divers worked through massive natural chambers. This man-made mine was different. It consisted of erratic, hand-dug pathways that were jagged and dangerously tight. The opening was barely 23 inches wide. Divers couldn't wear oxygen tanks on their backs. They would wedge against the ceiling. To pass these submerged bottlenecks, divers pushed their tanks ahead, exhaling to compress their chests, and scraped through the gap. This environment rendered standard rescue logistics useless. Every foot of progress required a unique physical solution to the mountain's architecture. Rescuers faced 3 difficult options. The first was to pump the water out, but the monsoon was dumping water into the mountain faster than industrial hoses could remove it. The second option was to search for alternative air shafts. Teams scoured the jungle for holes, but without a map, dropping into a random crack usually ended in a 200-foot dead end. Rescuers were forced into the third option, diving in. This required them to navigate blindly through muddy, silty water, mapping the treacherous layout of the mine in real time as they advanced. They were fighting a biological ticking clock. 7 men breathing in a confined chamber meant oxygen levels were rapidly dropping, turning the remaining air toxic. The rescue teams were operating in total uncertainty, forced to make life-or-death decisions against a mountain that offered no data and no second chances. By this point, the men had been underground for a full week. They sat in absolute darkness, starving, with the damp, stagnant environment causing their skin to decay. On May 27th, divers Ben and Mo finally pushed through the last submerged tunnel. They broke the surface in the 5th chamber and found 5 men miraculously alive. Rescuers immediately began a delicate medical triage. After 7 days without food, the miners' bodies couldn't handle a full meal. They had to be slowly stabilized with oral hydration salts and small portions of soft food. The immediate celebration quickly gave way to a new logistical crisis, dragging 5 starving non-divers through a labyrinth of flooded 23-inch pipes. The extraction plan was high risk. Rescuers had to teach exhausted miners with 0 diving experience how to breathe through regulators and stay calm while submerged in pitch-black, freezing water. The stakes were fatal. If a miner panicked or ripped off his mask inside a narrow bottleneck, there was no room for the diver to intervene. Both would likely drown in the confined space. 9 days after they were trapped, a miner named Nguyen was the first to attempt the route. For 37 minutes, he was guided and pushed through the flood tunnels, moving inch by agonizing inch toward the exit. Nguyen's successful emergence proved the extraction concept was viable. Over the next 24 hours, the remaining 4 men were pulled to safety, one by one. Their survival was a demonstration of extreme mental discipline, as each man had to suppress his primal fear of drowning during the long journey through the dark. But the victory was incomplete. 2 miners remained unaccounted for, believed to be trapped in an inaccessible, deeper section known as Chamber 6. A wave of false hope hit the rescue camp when reports emerged of rhythmic knocking from deep within the rock. It was later debunked as the sound of a diver's own tools echoing through the vertical shafts. A final attempt saw a diver rappel down a 200-foot vertical shaft from the mountain's surface, searching for an entryway. He found only another dead end, and on June 6th, the search was officially terminated. A lingering theory suggests these 2 men may have escaped the mine before the flood fully took hold. Because the mining was illegal, they may have vanished into the jungle to avoid arrest, leaving the world to search for ghosts. While extreme logistics saved 5 lives, the mountain ultimately hid the truth of the final 2 miners, leaving their fate buried in the unmapped dark.